The day I turned 18 started like any other day in our house. No decorations, no balloons, no awkward family breakfast with a candle stuck in a muffin. Instead, the kitchen table was covered with a different kind of preparation: gift bags, printed certificates, and a cake box my mom had picked up from the bakery that morning. None of it was for me. My sister Claire had just received an academic award from her university. Something regional, something impressive enough that my parents had spent the entire week telling relatives about it. By the time I walked downstairs that afternoon, my mother was already arranging plates on the counter. "Can you grab more chairs from the garage?" she asked without looking up. "For what?" I said. "Your sister's celebration tonight." I stood there for a second. Then I said the thing that had been quietly sitting in my chest all morning. "It's also my birthday." My mom paused just long enough to acknowledge that she'd heard me. "Yes, I know." She went back to arranging the plates. From the living room, my father called out, "This award means a lot for Claire. Let's not complicate things today." Not complicated, just postponed. That was the word they liked to use whenever my milestones overlapped with hers. I stayed in the kitchen doorway. "So we're not doing anything?" Mom sighed gently, like I'd asked something slightly unreasonable. "Honey, this moment really belongs to your sister right now. She deserves the spotlight." The sentence didn't sound cruel. It sounded rehearsed. By evening, relatives had filled the house. My aunt brought flowers. Someone opened the cake box and placed it on the dining table like a centerpiece. The cake read "Congratulations, Claire" in gold frosting. No one mentioned my birthday again. At some point during the night, I went upstairs. I didn't slam doors. I didn't cry. I didn't confront anyone. I just packed a backpack, a few clothes, my laptop, the small envelope of cash I'd saved from a part-time job. Downstairs, people were clapping as Claire opened a gift. The sound followed me all the way out the front door. No one noticed I left. The first few months were harder than anything I'd imagined. I slept on a friend's couch at first. Then a tiny room above a mechanic's shop. I worked 2 jobs, one during the day stocking shelves, another doing freelance web design at night. There were moments I wondered if leaving had been dramatic. Maybe I should have stayed. Maybe I should have just waited for the spotlight to move, but something about that night had felt final. Not angry. Just clear. For the first time in my life, my progress didn't have to share space with someone else's narrative. Slowly, things changed. The freelance work grew. A small business owner I'd designed a website for recommended me to someone else. Then another. Within a year, I had a steady client list and enough income to quit the retail job. I rented a modest apartment and started building a small design consultancy. Nothing flashy, just stable, quietly successful. The strange thing about independence is that it removes the audience you spent years trying to impress. For most of that year, I barely thought about my family. Until Claire found me online. It happened through LinkedIn. One of my clients had posted about a project we'd completed, a full brand redesign for a regional company. The post tagged me as the lead consultant. Claire saw it. I know because she called me that same night. I almost didn't answer. When I did, her voice sounded different than I remembered. "Business now?" "Yes." "A real one?" "Yes." Silence. Then a sharp laugh. "Since when?" "About a year." Another pause. "You mean since you ran away from home?" I didn't correct her wording. That's one way to describe it. Over the next week, things escalated faster than I expected. Claire started bringing it up during family conversations. Asking questions about how much I was making, suggesting that maybe I'd exaggerated my success. At first, it sounded like curiosity. Then it became something else. During a family dinner I'd reluctantly agreed to attend, the tension finally surfaced. Claire sat across the table from me, arms folded. "So you're suddenly successful now," she said. The room went quiet. I shrugged slightly. "I'm doing fine." She leaned forward. "It's funny how that happened right after you decided to play the victim and leave." My father shifted in his chair. Claire. But she kept going. You couldn't stand that things weren't about you for once. I looked at her. Really looked. For years I'd assumed she enjoyed the attention our parents gave her. But sitting there, watching the frustration on her face, I realized something else. She'd built her entire identity around being the successful one. And suddenly that role wasn't guaranteed anymore. I didn't leave to compete with you, I said quietly. That's convenient. My mother spoke for the first time. Claire, that's enough. But the damage was already visible. My parents sat there in silence, watching the two versions of their children, the one they'd spent years celebrating and the one they'd barely noticed growing somewhere else. Claire pushed back from the table. This is ridiculous, she said. Everyone's acting like he's some big success story now. No one answered. Because the truth was sitting right there in the room, and for once, no one could rearrange the spotlight. I left the dinner early, not dramatically, just quietly. Outside, the air felt cool and steady. As I walked to my car, I realized something that hadn't been clear before. Leaving home that night on my 18th birthday hadn't broken my family. It had only exposed the shape of it. And some things, once exposed, don't fit back together the way they used to.